Meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held August 7, 2018 at 6 p.m. If we could please have the Deputy Clerk take the roll.
Councilmember Althouse.
Here.
Councilmember Norman.
Here.
Councilmember Hauge.
Here.
Councilmember Henry.
Here.
Vice Mayor Allen. Yeah. Mayor Alinsky.
Here, thank you.
And Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Here.
By phone.
All right. She's in the little box on the counter here. So up next is a brief, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, up next, item 4 is a brief summary of current events by mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary. Any council members have anything to report tonight?
Yes, I do, just briefly.
Sure.
This past week, Vice Mayor Allen and myself attended the quarterly meeting of the Verde Valley Regional Economic Organization. The purpose of the meeting was to introduce the Arizona Career Readiness Credential Program, which is a program that was designed by the Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity and is being implemented here in Yavapai County by NACOG. It was a very useful presentation. There are a lot of tools for employers, a lot of tools there that I think would benefit our local employers. There are job growth projections. There are information about workforce statistics, labor needs from now on until 10 years from now. Part of the appeal of the credential program itself is that it essentially assures employers that an employee has received training in many areas of job, tasks such as situational judgment, some soft skills, attitude, attendance, and items like that. Any employers that are interested can get more information at the website. It's acrc.az.gov.
Great, thank you. Any other council members have anything to report tonight, please?
Okay. NACOG, Northern Arizona Council of Governments, again, they've been very busy this month. I attended a meeting on the Advisory Council on Aging from NACOG, and this was a very interesting meeting. I mean, it takes place for the Area Agency on Aging, basically, and informs us what they're doing, with the kind of funding they've gotten, what programs are available for our seniors, and what was the really nice piece of information that we provided this last meeting was they're fully funded this year, and they were afraid they were going to be cut very badly, and thankfully they're not only were they fully funded, they were actually given a little extra. So when you have places like our senior center often has people on waiting lists to be on their Meals on Wheels kind of opportunities, the extra funding will actually remove all of the waiting lists. So everybody that's on that waiting list is going to be served now, which I thought was amazing. I also attended, on the 20th, I attended the Verde Valley Leadership Program's 12th class graduation, which was an excellent event, and we have 2 people from the city that, I hope I'm getting that right, 2 people that graduated this class, and that was John Carter, who's our IT technician. 3. Who's the third one? Jamie John. What's Jamie's last name? Oh, I know that. I'm sorry. Jamie Hausman also graduated, and then Recreation Supervisor Hezekiah Allen graduated. Congratulations, son. Did a great job. And I just wanted to tell all of them what a great job they did, and congratulations on getting through that leadership program, which is an arduous program, but it really prepares them for that next step in their career. So there you go.
All right. Any other council members? City manager, have you got anything to report?
Just a couple things. The Cottonwood Library is offering a free basic English as a second language class, and that'll be every Tuesday from 4:30 to 5:30 beginning August 7th through September 25th, and it's open to all ages. And then this week, the Verde Valley Fire Chiefs Association is launching Pulse Point, which is a smartphone application to improve community response to sudden cardiac arrest. And the launch will actually take place at the Cottonwood Recreation Center on Wednesday, August 8th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And there'll actually be a press event at 11, and then both CPR and additional training to go along with the pulse point application. And then finally, if anybody would like to be in the City of Cottonwood selfie, you need to report to the August, to City Hall on August 15th at 5 p.m. And I think the council will soon be receiving an invitation for the selfie. And that's it, Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the reminder on the selfie, too. So one other thing, we have a change on the way now that we need to take our action. Just so the council's aware, public's aware, it's going to slow us down a bit, I think, but we need to do a roll call vote on every vote from now until an indefinite amount of time. Is that right? Can you explain why that is?
So the law changed so that legal action taken by the council, which council members voted which way, needs to be recorded. And really the only practical way to make sure that happens and to keep the clerks from going crazy is to take a roll.
Okay. All right. Okay, next up we have a presentation from Nancy STEELE, who is not necessarily new, but she is the new executive director of the Friends of the Verde River, who comes to us with much experience from a little village in California called Los Angeles. And we're certainly glad to have you here tonight to make a presentation on the Verde River Watershed Report Card. Good evening.
Thank you so much, and thanks for inviting me and letting me come before you and talk. I haven't met all of you. I am fairly new. I started with Friends of the Verde River as its first executive director in January. So some of you I've had a chance to talk to, and some of you I haven't. But I hope to talk with all of you soon. So I will try to keep this brief because I know you have a busy agenda tonight. And I was invited here to talk specifically about one of our newest projects, which I'm pretty excited about, and I hope you'll be excited about too. But first, Friends of the Verde River, I've given you a brochure and on the organization, and then a specific flyer on the Watershed Health Report Card. We are changing our logo, and we're having a brand launch party on this Saturday night at Bueno's. So on the 11th, you can come and get a really cool T-shirt and support our river. The purpose of developing this Watershed Health Report Card is to support the river. It's really to support the river and our economy and our society here in the Verde Valley, not just the Verde Valley, but throughout the entire watershed. So that takes in, there's a little map on that flyer that shows you the entire Verde watershed. If you're not familiar with it, it goes all the way up to Chino and all the way down to Phoenix. So we're quite an influential area in the state of Arizona in terms of providing water to the Phoenix metropolitan area and being really an attractive area for recreation, for wine growing, and people love coming here. So we want to keep our quality of life as great as it is. So when we are thinking about what we want, what we value about this region, and what the threats are to those values, we're actually thinking about what it is we want to track and monitor. So the Watershed Report Card will ask that first question: what do we value, and what are the threats to those values? And from there, we'll move on to determining then what are the thresholds that say whether or not the region is healthy or not. So once we've figured out what we value, whether it is specific areas like our economy, maybe picking wine growing as an indicator, the water supply, water quality, and any other areas, recreation specifically, we'll be working with the Verde Front, we'll be working with the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition, be working with all of the existing groups that have already been focused on the Verde River, bringing together all of that information and making it talk, essentially. It's a communications piece, in other words. So the Watershed Report Card is a way to track and report on the way things are and the trends, the way things are going. I've given you a little bit on the steps that we follow with the Watershed Health Report Card, but I guess I should probably tell you first who we're working with. We are partnering with the Nature Conservancy and the U.S. Forest Service at this point. The Forest Service has provided about 45–50% of the funding for this 2-year project. And so at this point, we also have some funding from some additional foundations, and we'll be continuing to raise funding throughout the next 2 years. Once we've figured out what the status is of the indicators that we've chosen of what we value, once we've decided how we're going to communicate that, then our next step is to continue focusing on improving those indicators over time. So in the handout, there's a little image of one of the watershed report cards that was done for the Mississippi River. And if you look at that, which might be a little small, but if you look at that, you can see, I actually brought a bigger one, which I can leave with you, that they decided that what they valued was recreation, ecosystems, flood control and risk reduction, transportation, water supply, and economy. So those were the big areas that they focused on. And within each of those areas, then, were specific indicators that they're tracking. So as I said earlier, we're going to be developing partnerships, working with existing partnerships and developing new ones. We'll build a shared understanding of the projects and actions that are needed to improve and make sure that the numbers keep going up, achieving our collective goals, increasing our shared understanding and the ability to connect projects to results. That'll enable us to secure more funding, to improve, for example, in the areas of management and conservation, and achieve our goal of a healthy Verde River system. We're starting this summer. The main funding is in and available, so we'll be kicking this off sometime in late summer and then starting with our first workshop in the fall. And I hope that Cottonwood will be able to partner with us, and I'm sure that we'll have some of you participating in these workshops, and I'll be coming back to you probably again and talking more about it. Thank you. That's all I had to say. If there's any questions.
Council, do we have any questions for Ms. Steele? No.
I just had one. What is the time frame for the issuance of a final report?
So we're planning to have a State of the Watershed, State of the Verde River Watershed Conference in October of 2019. And so we have, we've actually timed this so that at that conference we'll be able to release essentially a draft final report. Okay. And then we'll finish it up at the end of 2019.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to have you back. I know it takes money to make this happen. You know,
Yes.
I, for one, would like to support you, and I'd hope that the council would consider that. We've completed our budget process for this year, but of course next year we'll start again, and so I'd like to have you back in to make a request.
All right.
And I'm curious too, I imagine it's a big undertaking and there's a lot of expense up front to just get this in action, but then maintaining it year after year, what's your plan on maintaining the...
It's going to be part of the report, will be a business plan to determine what kind of funding we need year after year, because there's a lot of mandatory reporting that happens in terms of water quality, and then there's economics data that is collected on a regular basis and is available. So some of that will be fairly easy to gather and put out. We won't need to have a lot of funding to maintain that level. There will be some indicators that will probably require some new funding, and we'll determine that as we're going on and attach a price tag to that also.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for taking the lead on this, and thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. Are there any folks here tonight that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? No? Okay, then we'll close the floor and move on to approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of July 3rd, 2018, and the work session of July 10, 2018.
Make a motion?
Second.
Wait, asking. I move to approve the regular minutes of the regular meeting of July 3rd, 2018, and work session of July 10th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Althouse seconded it, and if we could please have Deputy Clerk take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Althouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Henry,
Yes.
Councilmember Augie,
Yes.
Councilmember Norman,
Yes.
Councilmember Pfeiffer, Vice Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and Mayor Alinsky,
Yes.
and the motion passed.
All right. It's gonna be a long evening. All right. Next up is unfinished business. We have 2 items. Sorry, we're good, right? Okay. We have 2 items under unfinished business. First item is the second public hearing on proposed capacity fees for new non-exempt water and wastewater service connections prior to possible adoption and second reading of ordinance implementing such fees beginning October 1, 2018. Evening.
Thank you, Mayor Council. I'm Rudy Rodriguez. I'm the Deputy City Manager for the City of Cottonwood. Wanted to go ahead and ask that the council open up the floor for public to speak out on the capacity fees. We had our first reading on July the 17th of this year after several other readings prior to that. We also, as you may recall, we had to have a water and wastewater infrastructure master plan put together, which we've been working on over the last year or so, in order to be able to have these particular fees implemented. We had Pat Walker Consulting and Will Dan Consulting helping us with calculations for these particular fees. These are capacity fees, not impact fees. The big difference is they're not as restricted. The reporting requirements are a lot easier to handle than impact fees. And the capacity fees also encompass the entire service area, not necessarily just those inside the corporate city limits. We're looking for capacity fees on water and wastewater. We have the notice of intent, and just for the public's information, a standard 3/4 inch line or 5/8 inch line will have a $1,124 capacity fee for water service and $4,502 capacity fee for the wastewater service. Mayor and Council.
All right, so this is second public hearing that we've held. We've certainly talked about this many times up here. Are there any folks here tonight in the audience that would like to speak on this item for the public hearing? No? Okay. Then I will close the floor, and I believe we move on then to ordinance number 643.
Yes, Mayor and Council. Ordinance 643 establishing capacity fees for new non-exempt water and wastewater service fees. As I mentioned, we got rid of the impact fees. As I've mentioned in previous meetings, we eliminated the impact fees several years ago for several reasons, mainly because of tracking and reporting requirements for a small entity. Bigger cities still have them in place. Smaller cities, many of them went to capacity fees, and that's where we're at today. Again, the tracking and report requirements are quite less and not as burdensome for small entities such as ours. Capacities are collected only on new development, not the developments that are already in place. We are working on the 2 developments that we have currently, large developments. One of them already has an development agreement, and the other one will be building its own infrastructure. Again, the amounts will be $1,124 for water service, $4,502 for wastewater service, totaling $5,626. This is the second reading, and of course the final for ordinance 640C to establish the capacity fees. Mayor and Council, questions?
Do we have any questions for staff? Any additional comments or thoughts you'd like to share?
No, I think this has come before council several times, and I think we're ready. I'm ready to just move forward with the vote.
Okay, very good.
And with that being said, I do think that it is important for the new users to pay for the extra costs that the city is incurring for the new development and not placing that burden on the current rate payers as we have been historically. So I'll move to approve. Actually, I move to adopt ordinance number 643, establishing, capacity fees for new non-exempt water and wastewater services as presented.
Second.
Okay, so Councilmember Henry made the motion, Councilmember Althouse seconded it. Deputy Clerk, please take a vote by roll.
Councilmember Althouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Henry,
Yes.
Councilmember Howergy,
Yes.
Councilmember Norman,
Yes.
Councilmember Pfeiffer,
yes,
Vice Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and Mayor Linsky,
Yes.
and motion passed.
Very good. Deputy Clerk, please read ordinance number 643 by title only.
Resolution number 643, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, adopting new water and wastewater capacity fees on new non-exempt water and wastewater service connections from and after October 1st, 2018. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, item 9, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen requests. We have no fewer than 9 items tonight on the consent agenda, so I'll read them off in order, and if there's anyone in the audience that would like to have one pulled, or if there's a council member that would like to have a consent agenda item pulled, please let me know. First on the consent agenda is request from the city's Parks and Recreation Department to waive sections 9.12.030 alcoholic beverages and 8.52.020 camping on public property of the municipal code for the Thunder Valley Rally event at Riverfront Park and for closure of certain parking lots during the event. Item 2 is agreement with the Verde Valley Military Service Park for the Verde Valley Military Service Park to act as the responsible agent for the procurement, distribution, and sale of spirituous liquor and other alcoholic beverages during the Thunder Valley Rally event scheduled for September 14 and 15, 2018 at Riverfront Park. Item 3 is application for a remote tasting room liquor license application submitted by Robert C. Carlson III, owner agent for Carlson Creek Vineyard located at 1010 North Main Street. Item 4, special event liquor license application submitted by Joel Tatar, applicant for the Verde Valley Military Service Park for the Thunder Valley Rally event scheduled for September 14 and 15, 2018 at Riverfront Park. Item 5 is a wine festival liquor license application submitted by Mitchell D. Levy, applicant for Burning Tree Cellars for an event scheduled on September 14 and 15 at Riverfront Park. Item 6 is application for temporary extension of premises patio permit submitted by Donald Riffle, licensee for Main Stage located at 1 South Main Street for an event scheduled for September 14 and 15, 2018. Item 7 is special event liquor license applications submitted by Christian Oliva Del Rio, applicant for the Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce for chamber mixers scheduled for September 20th, 2018 at 300 South Rockin' Chair Ranch Road, October 18, 2018 at 468 South Main Street, Suite C, November 15, 2018 at 601 West State Route 89A, and December 13, 2018 at 500 East Cherry. Item 8 is application for temporary extension of premises patio liquor license permit submitted by Donald Riffle, licensee for Main Stage located at 1 South Main Street for an event scheduled for October 13, 2018. And last is resolution number 2961, approving an intergovernmental agreement with Mingus Union High School District 4 for the services of a school resource officer to be provided by the Cottonwood Police Department. Any items that a member of the public would like to have pooled for discussion? Any items council member would like to have pooled for discussion?
No.
Okay.
Tim,
Yes.
I probably need to recuse myself from the one with the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, very good. Should we, I'll go ahead and pull that item then so that you can recuse yourself. And that would be item number 7, which is special event liquor license applications. So for the record, Councilmember Pfeiffer has recused herself, and I would move to approve special event liquor license application submitted by Christian Oliva Del Rio, applicant for the Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce for chamber mixers scheduled for September 20th, 2018 at 300. Do I have to read the whole thing? Okay,
Second.
great. Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Henry seconded it. Deputy Clerk.
Councilmember Althouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Henry,
Yes.
Councilmember Howergy,
Yes.
Councilmember Norman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and Mayor Linsky.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Okay, good. And then I would move to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Norman seconded it. Deputy Clerk.
Councilmember Althouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Henry,
Yes.
Councilmember Howery,
Yes.
Councilmember Norman,
Yes.
Councilmember Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and Mayor Linsky.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. Deputy Clerk, please read resolution number 2961 by title only.
Resolution number 2961, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Mingus Union High School District Number 4 for the services of a school resource officer to be provided by the Cottonwood Police Department, subject to the district's receipt of sufficient grant funding for the position. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, great. All right, we move on now to new business, and item 1 is a public hearing regarding a proposed increase in most of the city's transaction privilege tax rates by 0.5%. Evening.
Mayor and council, again, seems like I've come up here and I'm trying to increase something rather. Just some quick background on May 15, 2018. Council, we had some discussions concerning our fiscal year 2019 budget. Of course, our discussions didn't begin there. They began quite a bit earlier during the year. And part of those discussions was the revenue imbalance that we had with our budget. A big portion of that was discussions about TPT, our transaction privilege tax, also called the sales tax. The discussions were about a 0.25, 5.65, and a 0.1 increase in our sales tax to help fund a lot of our programs, predominantly our pension liability, building up our reserves, and capital projects that we might have. At this point in time, all we have is, I have attached the NOI, and we also have the ordinance for public viewing. As it says that it will be most of the sales tax. There are two issues there. One of them is the mining we cannot increase by statute. And the second one is rental tax we can't increase without voters having an opportunity to vote on that. With that being said, we do have, again, the NOI is attached. That's a notice of intent. It has been posted as it is required. And we're looking at about a 5% increase in our transaction privilege tax on all car categories except the ones that are prohibited by law.
0.5%.
What would I say?
5%.
Got me. 0.5%.
Okay. This is a public hearing, and are there any folks in the audience tonight who would like to address the council on the proposed 0.5% sales tax increase? I believe we will still have another meeting where we discuss this.
Yes, we will.
So if there are folks out there yet who would like to address the council, you will have another opportunity. And of course, we're all available by email, and see us at grocery stores. You can stop us there as well.
Not me. Time.
Yeah. Okay, then we will go ahead and close the floor then to the public and move on to the second item, which is ordinance number 645, increasing most of the city's transaction privilege tax rates by 0.5%. First reading of the ordinance.
Correct, Mayor, and obviously we won't be voting on it. It'll be just a first reading on this. However, it is important to know that the 0.5% will bring approximately $2.5 million at this point, because this would be starting quite a bit late into the fiscal year. We are also asking the Department of Revenue to allow us to implement this as of November 1st. There is a provision in our statute that allows us to go ahead and have to go to them to request that. We would normally start it on December 1st, but we're asking that they go ahead and allow us to have it begin on November the 1st. As you know, this is already a long process, and if council does approve the ordinance 645, then we would like to go ahead and have them, if they approve it, begin collections as of November 1st. We seldom start mid-month. We always try to start at the beginning of a month in order to make sure that there's a clean cutoff on our business owners. Again, we will also have both the NOI as well as the ordinance for public viewing. on our website as well as at the city clerk's office and other locations.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion on this item from council? No. We've certainly discussed this many long evenings, gotten lots of comments from the public, a lot of feedback, and I guess I'm looking forward then to the second reading. No action tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you very much. If we could please have Deputy Clerk read ordinance number 645 by title only.
Ordinance number 645, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, relating to the city's transaction privilege tax, amending the city of Cottonwood's tax code by increasing by 0.5% the transaction privilege tax rates for all city tax categories, business codes as reflected in the official tax table for the city of Cottonwood, published by the Arizona Department of Revenue and dated as of August 1st, 2018, except for the tax on metal mining, the tax on residential rental, leasing, and licensing for use, and as otherwise limited by law, and providing for penalties, severability, and an effective date. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And I believe the second meeting on this would be September 4. Is that, are we queuing it up for September 4th? So that would be another opportunity for the public to come in and address council in public. So next on the agenda is a public hearing regarding adoption of the city's final budget for fiscal year 2018-19.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm
Evening.
Kristen Lennon, Accounting and Budget Manager for the City of Cottonwood. We adopted the tentative budget on June 25th, and this is the time for the public to make comments before you adopt, hopefully, the final budget document that is in your packet.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so are there any folks here in the audience tonight who would like to address the council on the proposed budget, final budget for 2018-19? Okay. And then close the floor and move on to item 4, which is resolution number 2962, adopting the city's final budget for fiscal year 2018-19 and establishing an expenditure limitation.
As previously stated, we adopted the tentative budget on June 25th with the expenditure limitation of $69,528,685. 3 items changed since that time. Those 3 items were expenses for $93,640 for the Silver Springs wash that had not been originally put into the budget. $160,000, which is currently covered by a grant from the state of Arizona, and most likely they will continue to cover that, but as just a precaution, we wanted to make sure that it was budgeted in the communications budget. That's for the 911 service that they provide. And then $50,000 was added to the grants budget for the trails plan that needed to be done before we could get the state trail grant that we'd already been awarded. So those are the 3 items. It did not increase the expenditure limitation because we covered it with reserves.
Okay.
Nothing else changed in the budget. There's still no COLA. We just increased the ranges. The merit program was reduced to 4%. None of the positions or reclassifications will be done unless the sales tax is finalized. They will not happen until then. And with that, that is everything for the budget.
Okay. Well, this is the culmination of probably one of the most exhaustive budget processes I think our council's gone through in a lot of years. There was certainly a lot of give and take. I appreciate staff rolling this out more thoroughly and slowly to us. I hope it was helpful to council.
Definitely educational for those that had no idea how that budget process went, which I appreciate. You had a lot of patience to bring that to us that way.
And I second that. It was very useful for me as a council member. I know it caused more work for our finance department, but I think it was very helpful.
We do appreciate your hard work on it. I know it was it was new this year and different and more intense, but thank you.
I think it was helpful to get more input from you as well. It made it just, now we know for next year, you know, what to look for, what to plan on, and we're gonna still meet. We've met with one council member. We're gonna try to meet with you and find out what you liked, what you didn't like about the process, so that we can refine it and make it even better for next year.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you. Okay, so Council, how would you like to move forward? Any further discussion on this tonight?
I did. I just wanted to comment that, you know, during the many discussions that we had about the proposed sales tax increase, I heard a lot of feedback from the community that we need to make sure we have adequate reserves. So I do have a concern that between the draft and the final, we're pulling from our reserves, even though they're 3 very good projects, but we are increasing our spending and reducing our reserve levels. And that's a concern that was raised, and I think it is a valid concern.
Okay.
I agree with you, Tosca.
And so again, what you pulled from the reserves in order to budget our balance the budget based on the limitation that we had previously set. And what the money though would come from grants to fund these projects?
Well, one is currently a grant-funded project, and we are only budgeting it in case they take that grant funding away.
Okay.
And then one was the Silver Springs Wash, which had been in the plan, it just didn't make it in the budget.
And that's solely on the city to pay for that?
Yes.
That
Okay.
portion, yeah.
Okay.
I guess the question would be, why wasn't it in the budget? If it was in the plan, how did it?
I think it just got, you know, left out. It wasn't, somebody had thought it was in the budget, and then we noticed that it wasn't. So then we need to make sure that it was put in the budget, because we have no choice but to fix that Silver Springs Wash at this point.
And Mayor, council members, we really didn't have that number until very late in the process, because the fix had to be engineered. We didn't have an idea of what the projected cost was going to be until we had that engineering plan, and it probably was late June before we even got that. So
I think it's just concerning $200,000, $196,000 taking out of reserves, you know, and we didn't really get an opportunity to say, well, let's take it out of somewhere else instead of out of reserves. When it comes to us at the, you know, final reading, it's I think that's at least where my concerns are.
I understand.
let me.
And a portion of that is grant funding. It is pulled out for grant funding, so it's not 200,000, it's less than that.
No, the 196.
300,000?
So
The 196 was for the.
I think I can help clarify that one. We asked that be included, not because we expect that money will ever have to be spent by the city, but the state 911 program gave us notification that we have a 5-year grant, and that's a 5-year grant subject to allocations by the legislature through the 911 funding program. But that happens as a yearly thing. And then connected to that, there is a CenturyLink is providing the city's communications center, or is offered to, and we're trying to negotiate that contract, provide software, hardware, and updates and services. It's over the 5-year term of that proposed contract, it's about $750,000, $800,000. It's about $160,000 a year. And the way the contract's written, we're kind of squeezed between the state giving us the funding, and we're the payer under the agreement. So we get the money. We actually don't get the money. We get the bills, we send them on, the state reviews them and pays them for as long as the funding's available. But under the contract, and we're trying to negotiate this so that we have a little more flexibility and latitude, maybe a shorter term, maybe stronger what we call fund-out language. So far, we've not been successful in doing that. But the worst-case scenario is, and this is very, very unlikely, the state would pull the funding somehow, and we've entered into a contract that still makes us the responsible party. So we've placed that number in the budget simply as a placeholder.
And I don't dispute that it's just
Yeah,
maybe
that's-
a placeholder, but.
That's not the one we're talking about, though.
Correct, it's not, and I want it to be clear. The 911 program, from what I know of it, is important and it is a priority. So I would want us to have thought on that contingency that the grant funding may, you know, even if it's a slim possibility, during the months of discussions that we had, as Councilmember Althouse said, we discussed priorities and included some, cut some, without knowing that this was a possibility, no matter how slim. But that's just one of the 3 expenditures that were added. So.
And the one that I was asking about is the one where you thought it was the creek. Is that what it's called?
Silver Springs Wash.
Okay, Silver Springs Wash, where you thought it was in and it wasn't, and that was the 196,000, I think?
No, it's
93.
Okay, 96,000, okay. That, you know, it would have been nice to have been able to prioritize that and maybe remove, you know, something else, is all I'm saying.
I will say that the budget is a living document, and this is just a plan. Just because we say it comes out of reserves does not mean that those reserves will actually end up being decreased, because we don't usually even get into those reserves by the end of the year. Usually when we bring you back the revised budget, it is less by those reserves than we originally budgeted. So it's not like we're saying we have this $3 million sitting out there and we're going to take money out of it. It's a reserve. We may not spend that money, or something else may not happen. I mean, that's, you know, it's a budget, it's a plan. It's not really like we're saying you're going to spend all these things and all this money is going to go for those items.
I understand where you're coming from, and I know that you're in between a rock and a hard place because we had set that tentative expenditure limitation. So you had to pull the money from somewhere, and I think pulling it from reserves was the most logical step. I understand, too, that it may not come from those reserves because it is a living document. It could come well from somewhere else. But Councilmember Henry and Althouse's point is also well taken, that it would have been nice if we could have chimed in earlier, and I think we can all agree we're going to try to do a better job as we kind of iron out how this council wants to review the budget document. Things will always slip through the cracks.
It will, and I'm sorry, Mayor, continue.
No,
I just want to give my 2 cents that we gave them quite a challenge this year. We really did, and for them to have a couple of items that I don't have any heartburn with, this was an extreme struggle. We pushed them up against the deadline multiple times, and for them to come up with these, I feel like they're being hammered for stuff that happens on occasion, and it's going to happen every year because stuff comes up before the finance department every year. And I think they've done a remarkable job of fielding 7 other individuals' voices in the council this year, when usually that doesn't happen. They've already gleaned it down to the chaff and brought it to us to get the final figures. So I understand both of yours concern that this stuff happens, but I also have to say this stuff happens, and this is the individual that makes it work, as is Rudy, and I give her kudos for continually juggling those figures, for trying to make it clear to us sitting up here who really don't always understand what the finances. It's not like our finances at home, you know, where we plan for, we're going to shop and spend this much money on these items, and all of a sudden here's another item we need to shop for. It's a little different, and I just want to express my kudos to the finance department for stepping up to the plate and giving us that opportunity to really participate this year and understand that most of us understand how difficult a role that was for you.
Thank you.
And also, I think my expectation, at least, and I'm sure most of the council members would be that if it looks like you're faced with dipping into those reserves, that you would then bring that back to council so that we can have that discussion about what are our priorities and where will that money come from, because it may be that we don't want to tap our reserves, we want to pull it from somewhere else. And I think because it is a living document, we should have that opportunity then to weigh in on that. My expectation is that you would present that to us. Is that correct?
Yes, any item that is over 50,000 has to come back to you anyway, at any time. And so if it was hitting the reserves, it would come back to you, and you would then be able to either not approve it or approve it.
Okay.
And I agree, you guys do a fabulous job, and it's been tough, and I don't, but I have to ask the questions because I get asked the questions. Even though I don't go to the grocery store anymore, they find me other places, and so we have to ask those questions, and so we're not coming down on you or the finance, you or Rudy, you do a great job.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions, council? Okay. How would you like to move forward? We ready for a motion? I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2962, adopting the city's final budget for fiscal year 2018-19 and establishing an expenditure limitation.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Vice Mayor seconded it. Deputy Clerk, if you could, please.
Councilmember Althouse,
No.
Councilmember Henry,
No.
Councilmember Hardy,
No.
Councilmember Norman,
Yes.
Councilmember Pfeiffer,
yes,
Vice Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and Mayor Linsky.
Yes.
And the motion passed 4-3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is results of the bicycle use survey conducted by staff.
Oh, no. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think we need to read the resolution adopted.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Deputy Clerk, if you could please read resolution number 2962 by title only.
Resolution number 2962, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, adopting the final budget for fiscal year 2018 to 2019 and establishing an expenditure limitation. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, how are you?
Good. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for your time this evening. My name's Hezekiah Allen with the Parks Recreation Department. Today we're going to discuss the barriers to riding survey. As you remember from the last submission we made to the League of American Bicyclists for a bicycle-friendly community, one of the comments or key steps to Silver was to conduct a barriers to bicycling survey. What this tool does for us is it gives council empirical data for decision making. So it'll tell us what the barriers to cycling are in our community, whether they be infrastructure, programs, services, resources. We have Heather Klomperis that is going to make this presentation. She's the health ed coordinator for Yavapai County. Also remind council that earlier this year when you set strategic initiatives for the community, for the city, directive number 2, promote a vibrant, healthy, and educated community. Goal 2.1, create, promote resource directory. And then goal 2.2, expand bicycle program, obtain silver designation. Update bicycle plan, that'll be going to the Parks Commission here soon as we've got that updated. Revise the subdivision ordinance to require bike lanes and or bike buffer lanes in accordance to league standards. They're working on that. Leverage ADOT to install bike lanes on State Route 89-260 with city limits. I believe we're working on that too. Mayor's drafted a letter to ADOT. Great bike corral parking in Old Town. That'll be your next presentation. Develop a bike auction exchange program with the police department. We've been working with that with a local nonprofit to achieve that goal. And then 2.28, conduct a survey to identify the barriers or current conditions of barrier cycling, and then that's what this presentation is concerning. Ensure for bike lanes on reconstructed roadways as recommended by the bike plan. Mingus Avenue, the latest construction project, you'll notice has bike lanes. And then encourage police officers to use bicycles for patrol as staffing and conditions allow. That's where the BAC worked with the police department to purchase new bicycles for the police department. Recently, it was really interesting. I was able to travel to Colorado, and I believe I saw a community that promoted the vision that council is pushing for, as far as a community that is connected, that has a wonderful bike program and trails, and a community that is active. And It's wonderful to see that vision, and I believe we're going to hit that vision. So Heather Klomperis is going to present this.
Great, thank you. Evening.
All right, good evening. Thank you so much for having me, Mayor Linsky and council members. My name is Heather Klomperis. As Hezekiah introduced me, I work for Yavapai County. I also am a member of the Cottonwood Bicycle Advisory Committee, and I'm going to give you a presentation on the Barriers to Riding survey. All right. So to start off, I want to just briefly go through the mission and vision of the BAC, just so we're all on the same page. The mission is to continually improve the bicycling experience in Cottonwood, and our vision is to inspire all Cottonwood residents and visitors to enjoy the pleasure of clean, healthy recreation and transport by creating an elaborate environment of opportunity for bicycle riding. On the slide here, we have a few pictures of some of our programs. On the far left is the Bike to School Day Mayor's Ride, which was a phenomenal day, super fun. In the middle is our Bike Rodeo, which was also held on the same day. We were able to get every single student at Cottonwood Elementary School on a bicycle that day. I don't know that that's ever been done. Definitely not in Cottonwood, so very excited about that. And then the last pictures are police department donations that Hezekiah talked about. So like Hezekiah said, we part of the reasoning for the Barriers to Riding survey is to find out what can Cottonwood do a little bit better to get more people on bicycles and to have a safe environment. Also, it's part of our bike plan update, which is next on our agenda, coming up here this fall. All right, this is our Barriers to Riding survey. Did everybody receive a copy of this?
Yes.
Excellent. We had 354 surveys returned, which I thought was pretty fantastic. Of those surveys, 191 people said they were from Cottonwood or had an 86326 area code. And then total, we had 320 residents of the Verde Valley, which again is a pretty good representation of what we're looking for. So about 90% were local. And this was distributed through email and social media, basically. We didn't get a whole lot of hard copies back. All right, so I'm just going to go through the questions briefly. Question 1 was, how often do you use the following forms of transportation? And this graph here, or chart, is only showing the people that, or the only bicycle. There was also, carpool and walk. So those are our numbers there. So we have about 39 with never, and 1 to 4 times per week, 18.9, which is good. And then we're gonna skip to question 3, and it says, how often do you do the following types of bicycling? And overwhelmingly, people chose bicycle for recreation, exercise, health, fun, family, rather than transportation. So doing errands and getting to school and work. All right, and question 4, why do you ride? The respondents were able to select up to 3 responses, and the top 2 were overwhelmingly for my health and for fun, which is great. And then the 3rd place was for the environment, which is also wonderful. Great reasons to ride. Okay, so now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. Question 5, how would you describe Cottonwood as a place for bicycling? And as you can see there, all our responses were kind of all over the board. Somewhat good and somewhat poor, it's kind of hard to see there, are almost identical at 29 and 28%. Unfortunately, the very poor was at 16% and the very good was at 4%. So about 44 respondents said that bicycling in Cottonwood is either somewhat poor or very poor. Again, we want to get that number up. All right, so why do they think it's poor? So what are our barriers to riding? These, again, I printed all of them out for you. Did you all?
They're in our packet, yes.
Okay,
thank
great.
you.
So I just took maybe the top, I don't know, 8-ish, and what I wanted to concentrate on are on the top 5. So number 1, unfortunately, is aggressive speeding, unsafe motor vehicle drivers, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I wanted to focus on here is more of the built environment. So 4 out of 5 of the top 5 answers were, lack of bicycle lanes and paths, the gaps in the network, unsafe conditions for children, and poorly maintained bicycle lanes or paths. And we'll talk about that in a moment too. All right, so this was the 4 types of bicyclists was defined by the city of Portland. We have the strong and fearless. They're going to get out there on a bicycle no matter what. They don't care what they're riding in. These are the people that are going 89A, 260, and are fully confident. And then we have the enthused and confident people that, feel pretty comfortable on the road. They would prefer a bike lane, but they'll probably ride regardless. And then what we want to focus on are the interested but concerned. So these are the riders that are like, yeah, maybe if there was a nice bike lane and I felt really safe and there was no debris, and all the drivers were great. So, and then the last category is no way, no how. They're not getting on a bicycle, and that's totally up to them. So what we want to do is get that interested but concerned group up into the enthused and confident group. All right. So if we look just at that interested but concerned group, these are their top 6 barriers for riding. So lack of bicycle lanes and paths was switched with the aggressive speeding and unsafe motor vehicle drivers. But again, the top 3 out of 5 were built environment, so roads, bike lanes, and things like that. All right, so my favorite part of the survey is always the open-ended questions, because that's when you really get into the meat and bones. But we have, is there anything else you would like to add about Cottonwood bicycling? I did put some good quotes up there. My favorite is probably the last one. Bicycle commuting is very possible in our town. We just need development of a connected network. I do want to say, I printed these out for everyone to see. I also wanted to say that there are some really great comments in there. A lot of comments about bicyclists not knowing what they're doing, and motor vehicles not know what they're doing. So there seems to be like some serious disconnect there. And really, truly, our roads are built for everyone. They're built for vehicles, they're built for bicycles, and they're built for pedestrians. And we all deserve a place there. So I think as far as the BAC is concerned, that's another thing that we really need to tackle is getting those 2 groups to really mesh a little bit better together. So we're all safe and happy on the roads. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say about that. Again, there were a lot of questions about the roads not being cleaned, or a lot of comments about the roads not being cleaned. So just another thing to keep in mind that where we can put our efforts toward. All right. So this survey was done before this was done. So we're really hoping that if we do the survey again, hopefully we will in a couple of years, that things will improve because our roads have improved. Our office is right here. It's beautiful. We're so very happy. I can't wait till school starts because there's going to be people walking and biking, and it's going to be great, and cars. And then we are also very excited, this is Main Street, about this project going forward. I think once they right-size Main Street, I think that people will be much happier and much more comfortable riding around Cottonwood. All right, so this last picture is another picture of our bike rodeo. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Clark-Barons?
I don't have a question. Did you have a comment?
No
to say?
comment.
Go ahead, Ben.
Just that this was very inclusive, and to get that much of a response, great job. I mean, it makes it more real for the council when we can actually see these comments and things like that. I really appreciate that.
And I agree, this was a very useful presentation, and the results that you provided for review were, some of them were really enlightening. I hope with our newish street sweeping, street sweeper, that maybe some of the debris, some of the comments about the debris might be addressed already or in the process. I also, though, wanted to thank our fire chief, the fire department, and especially Fire Marshal Contreras for their very active involvement in the Bike Rodeo Day.
They're amazing.
They turned out, they made a very positive impact from reports from some parents in the community, very positive impact on our students. And I was told that some of these kids had never even ridden a bike before, and we had our fire department out there helping get them on bikes, and that was a really positive experience for many of our local families, so thank you.
And police.
And our police, I did not mean to leave them
That's
out,
okay.
so thank you police as well.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation. I had just a question. Will the Bicycle Advisory Committee then come up with a list, of top 5 things that we can do as a council to really move this forward, so we have a very actionable list, that even down to which streets need the most attention? Or I don't know what it looks like, but will you be reviewing that as a committee and helping us make better decisions as we spend your money?
Based on the survey results?
Yes.
That's a great idea. We have a meeting in a couple weeks, or a week and a half, so we'll talk about it. And
maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I, for one, would like to have some very specific things that we can do based on the feedback and based on your experience working with the committee on what we can do. Because just saying that we need our streets more swept more often,
right.
Probably not every street. If we could get some more specifics, I think it would help us do better.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for the feedback. And I think that some of the more concrete goals will come out in the bicycle plan.
Okay.
So that's coming soon.
Great.
Thank
Looking forward to it.
All right. Is that it?
I believe that's it. Thank you for the presentation.
Well, I'll introduce Nancy Gottschalk. She is a health policy manager for Yavapai County Community Health Services, and an amazing part of our team. So very happy to have her. And she's going to speak with you on the bike corral. Okay.
All right. So we're moving on then to item 6 on the agenda, which is the proposed bike corral in Old Town. Thank you.
Alrighty, Mayor Alinsky, Council, my name is Nancy Gottschalk, and I'm here on behalf of the Bicycle Advisory Committee. And tonight we wanted to inform you a little bit about the bike corral project that we've been working on for just about 2 years. And just a reminder that one of the recommendations from the League of American Cyclists was to continue to increase the amount of high-quality bicycle parking throughout our community. So we, the BAC, believe it's fair to assume that bicycle usage will continue to increase in our area. From 2007 to 2016, bike commuting nearly doubled in the 50 largest U.S. cities. That's according to the Bicycle and Walking Benchmarking Report. And I know a lot of things have already been mentioned, but if you look at all the work that the BAC, Yavapai County Community Health Services, Verde Valley Cyclists Coalition, the Verde Valley Bicycle Company, and Cottonwood City staff have done to increase awareness, increase infrastructure on bicycles in just the last couple years, we want to really think about looking ahead at ridership. So again, the bicycle events, the mayor's rides, Bike to Work Week, bike rodeos, bike lanes on Mingus, the bicycle police force, and the bicycle parking ordinance, and looking forward to the road improvements on Main Street. So more and more people are going to get out there. So our bicycle parking ordinance, first of all, the BAC is thrilled that the City of Cottonwood has a bicycle parking ordinance. But we're looking specifically at Old Town with our bike corral, and the bicycle parking ordinance won't necessarily bring more parking to Old Town. What I had there is in red and it's not showing up, but I highlighted the parts that explain that the parking ordinance concerns new developments or major reconstruction, and that won't necessarily happen in Old Town. And also there is the historic district exemption within the ordinance. So we still have Old Town to deal with. And here are the current bicycle parking facilities in Old Town. We have these two just right here on Pima and Main. And so each one of those facilities can hold 2 bikes. And then a little bit further up Main, we've got 2 more. These are in rather a congested area right outside of the tavern restaurant and kind of at the entrance to the parking there. So it wouldn't be a great facility to put 2 bikes next to it because we don't want to impede on the sidewalk. So, you know, maybe 2, maybe 4 there. And up until recently, that was it for Old Town. This popped up maybe a couple months ago on the north end at the Old Town Square. So happy to have that too. But you can see that none of these parking facilities are very visible from the street. None of them have signage. And we're happy that they're there, but again, with the bicycle parking ordinance, if we've set the standard that 10% of parking would be devoted to bicycle parking, this certainly doesn't meet the need for all of Old Town. So here's some pictures of what you see around town. These are just kind of close to First Street. You often see bikes, people, I don't know, maybe they're giving up looking and just leave their bike right there on the sidewalk. Again, we don't want to impede the sidewalk for people. There's another one. I promise there's not too many, just a handful. Oh, Dr. Bob got that great shot of the sidewalk being completely blocked. So, I'm going to take you down the road of where we've gone with this project with the bicycle corral, and it kind of started, I believe, in December of 2016, where the BAC was kind of talking about bicycle parking conditions in Old Town, and we started talking about bike corrals and researching bike corrals. So it's kind of a good time to explain what is a bike corral. So a bicycle corral is an on-street bicycle parking facility that can accommodate up to 16 bicycles in the same area as a single vehicle parking space. So this particular one is in Los Angeles, and you'll see, you know, they can be very simple facilities. They can kind of get funky and artistic. And I picked some different cities, but New York, LA, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Chicago, these are growing in popularity, the bicycle corrals in the city of Portland. There is a waiting list. Businesses get on a waiting list to get a bike corral put in front of their business. So here's Milwaukee, again, kind of different. This is one that Dr. Bob found in Durango, more simple, but still gets the job done. And they are popping up in Arizona as well. Here's a couple in Tucson. So after our research, one of us had the brilliant idea to contact the Mingus Union High School Welding Club to see if maybe they'd be interested in building the bicycle corral for us. And Andrew Lamer, who's the teacher in the welding program at the high school, agreed to partner. And that really took us to the feasibility of this actually happening, because we would only have to pay for the materials cost, because we would get the labor of the students and then perhaps labor or volunteer work to get it installed. So the next step was we reached out to the Old Town Association. And after we reached out, we found that Merkin Vineyard would be interested in having the bike corral in front of their business. And this actually worked out perfectly because a bike corral at Main and Pinal in front of Merkin Vineyard would provide that clear, visible, safe bicycle parking in Old Town. It would provide bicycle parking in the center of the Old Town district, which we currently don't have. It would add bicycle parking without obstructing the sidewalk for pedestrians. It would create visual interest. It could potentially slow down traffic. And this is a very important concept, serve as a monument for the Share the Road concept. It's been suggested as we've moved through this process that, you know, maybe move it around the corner, maybe it could be on this street or that street or offshoot. But a bike corral is, you know, on the same lines as a bike lane, that the roads are not just for vehicles. And we do want it on Main Street as that visible monument. And we would actually be increasing the capacity of people getting to Old Town. So instead of one big vehicle there, we could potentially be getting, you know, 16 people in Old Town on those busy nights. And actually, we won't be taking any parking from a vehicle, and this is a little bit technical, but this is roughly the area that we're looking at. And we were told that the city has considered resizing and restriping those parallel parking spots on Main and Old Town. They're currently a little bit longer than they have to be. So when that resizing is done, and each parking spot is shrunk a little bit, we'll just be utilizing that space. And then you can see there that we're coming in a little bit on the red curbed space. But the red curb is not there because there's a fire hydrant. It's there because to maintain sight lines. And because the bike corral won't impede on the sight lines, we can come in a little bit on that red curb. So we're just adding parking. We're really not taking any parking away from any vehicles. I believe you have this in your hands. This is the latest version, just a couple illustrations from the most current design. So the bike corral will be roughly 18 feet long and 7 feet deep, just basically a parking spot. And then on this lower picture here, you see that circle in the front. This is what you would see from the street. And these are the Mingus Union High School Welding Club cutout designs. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with some of the work that the high school does. It's beautiful work. It's not only utility, but they also create sculpture. They sell their work at Walkin' on Main. They often sell out on their sculpture pieces, so they're beautifully done. In fact, they made these renderings for us. So the city logo would be on the street side, and then our great logo with the bicycle parking signage, which is another thing that we need, would go on the sides of the corrals. So after that, one of the Mingus Union High School students, Dorian Werner, completed a design for us, and we took that design to code review. And we've been working through the code review process. In November, the BAC decided to use some of our funds to hire an architect to help us with the design and work through the revisions and work with the city on that. And we've just kind of been in this code review back and forth, redesign to make it perfect for everybody, and that's kind of where we are now. We'd love to see a bike corral installed in 2018. We've had a lot of, as you can see, partners and people in the community that are excited, that want to partner with us, and they've just kind of been waiting in the wings for a while now. So here's just some rough idea. Actually, this picture here on the right was done by Thomas Peters, who's going to be a student at ASU this fall. And it really takes a village to build a bike corral. I'll tell you, we've had a lot of input. But that's what we're envisioning. And also, I wanted to mention that you see that's coming a little bit on Jim Ledbetter's offices there. And I did reach out to him and just make sure that that was okay with him. And at the time, it was. So I guess that's all, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Gottschalk? So, thank you for your hard work on this. I know it's been a years-long process now to get a bike corral in place. I certainly hope we're moving in the right direction. Do you know the status on whether or not?
I don't. I think Hezekiah might.
Okay.
So, Mayor Council, we had our last TUP process and review of Chris Vernosky's rendering. Engineering had a couple of comments. We put Chris Vernosky in contact with engineering, but I think things are getting worked out. And at this point, we just really need council's approval to move forward.
Well, I think you know how I feel, but I'll say my piece. I'd like to see that type of parking at every intersection that we have in Old Town, just for the safety element. Because I feel like it is very difficult and dangerous to pull out during busy, well, frankly, during non-busy times, really, because traffic moves so quickly. To pull out, you can't see around the vehicles that are parked around the corner. So I like the concept. I like everything that it stands for. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see us get this one, and then I would like to see this expand, because it's best to get ahead of this. And I think the trend across the nation is certainly that people are bicycling more and more, thinking about alternative ways to get from point A to point B, and parking will only continue to be an issue in Old Town. And I think this is a way to provide more parking for more people.
And add to that, Mayor, and Nancy touched on this, but this is a great opportunity too to increase brand awareness for the community. As you saw the logo, it's going to be that weathered steel look. The Wedding Club has talked about doing embellishments of wine grapes and stuff like that to really beautify it as well, and have that create an identity as you come into the community.
Very good.
Any other? Just a comment that this was a very nicely done presentation by Ms. Gottschalk. But also thank you to the BAC, all of the members, because this has been a lot of work, hard work, dedication, and even more than that, a lot of creativity coming up with the partnership, both with local businesses and with our welding club at the high school.
Thank you. With a great group.
Marsha?
Please.
And before I state, I ditto Councilmember Henry's comments, as well as thank you for your determination and hanging in there and getting it done. I know sometimes the wheels just move slowly, and you guys did a great job. So if I can go ahead and make a motion?
Sure.
I move to approve the placement of a bike corral in Old Town Cottonwood.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor made the motion, and Councilmember Henry seconded it. Deputy Clerk?
Councilmember Althouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Henry,
Yes.
Councilmember Howergy,
Yes.
Councilmember Norman,
Yes.
Councilmember Pfeiffer,
yes,
Vice Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and Mayor Alinsky.
Yes.
And motion passed.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for all your hard work. Appreciate it. Okay, we move on then to item 7. Last item of the evening is ordinance number 647, amending the city's zoning ordinance by adding a subsection 3, maximum building height, to section 404, general provisions, subsection H, height regulations. This is the first reading. Evening.
Verde Nejad, Community Development Manager, Mayor, Council. This is for section 404, height regulations. We would like to add some clarifications. And in your packet, we have 3 items, and A, B, C actually. We are adding just the C part tonight. A and B are already in our current code, and I will go through these things. Recent years, we've been receiving some applications and proposals. More, they are higher than 30 feet high buildings. So currently in our code, it says any buildings within the planned development area, PAD, or in the conditional use permit, it needs to be, shall exceed 2.5 stories or 35 feet in height. And this is existing, we are keeping that, and also no building in MH, mobile home zone, shall exceed 2 stories or 20 feet high in height. These are already in the code. We are keeping that, and we are just adding C to clarify some of the issues we dealt with recently. It says any buildings permitted to exceed 3 stories or 40 feet height in height, whether conditional use permit or part of an approved plan area development, which is PAD, shall be built entirely with non-combustible materials as approved by the city's fire chief and or fire marshal. So again, we've been dealing with certain issues recently, so this item C will clarify that, so we are adding this to our zoning ordinance. Fire chief is here if you have any further questions, and also this was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission June 18 and July 12 meetings.
Okay. Council, do we have any questions for Ms. Najad or Chief Kirkendall? I have one question. I know that the hospital exceeded the height requirement of our ordinance. That, I'm assuming, was built with non-combustible materials and fully sprinklered and all that good stuff?
Yes. I will turn it to the fire chief.
Yes, Mayor, the hospital is non-combustible, or actually fire-resistant construction because of the I2 classification. So the building code did require that. But in a nutshell, this is my request, is what's really going on here. Because the fire code does have provisions to build buildings taller out of combustible construction. We feel, though, within our community, before we're inundated with other buildings that want to go to 4 stories or above 40 feet, that we want to require non-combustible construction, because we don't have the manpower and we really don't have a ladder truck that will reach it currently. So this is for the safety of the occupants. So this was requested by myself to do that. So any other questions?
I have no other questions. It seems to make a lot of sense to me, so thank you for bringing it forward. No, if there are no other questions or comments from council, then this is just the first reading tonight, but I would move to have the deputy clerk, read ordinance number 647.
Ordinance number 647, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending section 404, general provisions, H, height regulations of the city's zoning ordinance by adding a new subsection 3, maximum building height. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next is claims and adjustments.
Move we pay the claims and adjustments.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Norman seconded it. Deputy Clerk, please. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Althouse.
Yes.
Councilmember Henry.
Yes.
Councilmember Howgie.
Yes.
Councilmember Norman.
Yes.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Allen.
Yes.
And Mayor Linsky.
Yes.
And motion passed.
Thank you. And next is adjournment. I would move to adjourn.
Second.
So Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Althouse seconded it. Deputy Clerk, please make sure.
Mr. Mayor, I consulted with the deputy clerk about this. I think you can call for a vote, and I think the clerk would be okay recording a collective vote on adjournment.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.